All right, we're live.
All right.
Is recording.
Let's do it.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to my podcast. This is the Motivated by Mortality podcast, and today is May 10th, 2020. Today is Mother's Day. And as I am beginning to launch this podcast and hopefully launch a lot of meaningful conversations, a lot of conversations that I think are valuable to the world and to myself in particular, I thought the first episode would be best on Mother's Day to start off with my mom. I think one of the best gifts you can have with your mom or anyone important in your life is a conversation. So we've been through some stuff, to put it lightly, in the past couple months. And I think this podcast will be something good, particularly because we'll be able to see this on video 10 years, 20 years from now, when I'm old, when you're really old, and actually be able to see what it was like in 2020 when I was beginning the next chapter of my life as I was graduating from college, and while you just recently turned 50 are beginning the next chapter of your life. So this is my mom, Miss Babita Kukreja.
All right.
Can you introduce yourself? Who are you? I was about to say, who are you, Babita? Who are you, Mom? It's a tough question. We're not cutting this out, by the way. My mom is so nervous, by the way. I just want to let everybody know.
This is not going to be the part of the
She literally talks for a living. She's been a teacher for 15 years.
This is not going to be the part of the podcast. This is
definitely going to be part of the podcast. Okay, go. Just tell us who, who are you? How would you define yourself?
So, who am I? By name, I'm Babita Kukreja. And I believe that I am an extreme optimistic, positive, and at the same time real in life. And I try to live my life in every area. And I say I try to because no one could be perfect. I mean, of course, I'm perfect, but here we go.
Queen Bee has entered the chat.
I try to live my life in majority of the areas as authentic as I can, and I truly believe, and it's kind of implemented in my life that I'm able to find goodness in whatever disaster I am in, and that's what defines me for the next phase of my life.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me, and I think really what we've been going through in the past couple months, what the whole world has been going through, this like global pandemic. I think really what we've been all trying to do is find optimism in the toughest situations. And we're going to talk about your situation with coronavirus and kind of some of the stuff you went through in a little bit. I kind of want to talk a little bit about our relationship and us growing up together, right? I'm 22 years old right now. My mom just turned 50 on December 22nd. And really, I see a lot of myself in you. You've told me you see a lot of myself in you. And they're positive characteristics and traits that I genuinely value. And I'm only starting to realize I value them as I turn 22. As you get older, as you start to get more introspective, as you start to realize that you have to do something with your life, because if you're going to live, then you should live with some type of purpose or meaning. Otherwise, it's a horrible way to live. Mm-hmm. Then you have to sort of figure out like what defines you, what characterizes you, what attributes do you like, what do you not like. And part of the beauty of figuring that out is really looking towards the environment you were raised in and trying to come to some objective conclusions about what that environment did to enable who you are as an individual right now. So I have a couple scenarios I want to bring up, and I want to get your perspectives on them since it's Mother's Day, and we'll talk about that. You like to take pictures a lot. A lot of times it's annoying because a lot of times we don't want you to take pictures all the time. Any family dinner, anything is like, gotta take a picture. You know, now, and you said when we were younger, you'll appreciate this when you're older. And we didn't listen when we're younger because no kid listens when they're younger. But now that I'm 22, I can catch myself in the middle of the night going through your old Facebook albums, actually looking at these old photos. And it's a blessing to know that these memories and moments exist. To me, the philosophical reason for why you like taking photos more so than just taking photos is you're capturing moments in time. And those moments in time, for some reason, are valuable later in your life and later in all of our lives when we look back at them, because there's some feeling, there's some emotion, there's something we get out of looking back at that moment. What is it about capturing the moment, whether literally or metaphorically, that makes you such a believer in the idea of living moment by moment in life?
So you answered one of the reasons already, that I want you guys to grow up and see and live those memories again. Second reason is I absolutely love photography. That's in one of my bucket lists to actually learn how to do photography, and I've tried to enroll in online courses, but the life is happening so fast that I haven't been able to check that off of my bucket list. Second, growing up, I don't have pictures. So
yeah.
I don't know how I looked. I think I had maybe one or two pictures and maybe two or three pictures in high school. Someone has taken some pictures. So I don't have any memories, like physical pictures to see. So I want you guys to grow up and be able to tell story from connecting those dots,
Right.
and know, looking from each picture, when you were in the middle of the entire roll of bounty, or when you're sitting with the flower on top of your head, that what was happening at that moment. So I value those moments a lot, because your life is all about now at this moment. Tomorrow is not guaranteed, so I want to capture all those moments so you can cherish when
Right.
you grow up.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and and see that level of just positivity that you're embracing right now, because a lot of people can go negative towards that, or like where they can feel that life is not about moments, life is about just getting through some of the hard stuff. Whereas I've been getting to realize that the hard stuff are the moments that make it meaningful. I've begun to go on a journey, to go on a path in my life, and I think this will transition into the next part of this discussion, where I'm doing something a little bit unconventional, other than a lot of other people, particularly Indian people in particular, right? Indian young men. I'm doing something a little bit different. I've graduated college. I'm not getting the corporate job. I'm not going to, the big finance company. And really for the past 4 years, I've strayed away from that. I tried to dabble in it, but once I realized immediately I didn't like it, I tried to go on a journey to find something else that actually brought me meaning and purpose in my life. I have a question for you, as an Indian parent in particular, someone who came to America for better opportunities, someone who really believes in the value of education. My mom has been a teacher for 15 years, a district administrator. She's been public education for her entire life. What is the logic? What is the reasoning for any of the parents that are watching this, particularly for any of the Indian parents that are watching this, that aren't able to let their kids find themselves or go on a journey to find themselves? Because I know a lot of Indian friends that I have that simply have not started that journey, and literally they've admitted it's because of their parents. How have you been able to let me go and let me figure myself out?
So, growing up in India, the norm of the society at that point was parents are your well-wishers. They know it all. They have the experience. So they're going to guide you throughout. They're going to have a calculated path for you,
Right.
because they know the best. You're little. You're only 17, 18. Let's call it 16, because after 16, sophomore class, you have to decide your major.
Right.
So at 16, the norm of the society was, like, what do you know about future? Let me guide you and let me create a path for you. Let me tell you how important 11th and 12th grades are in your life, because if you select a wrong major, if you do not have a particular percentage in the state board exam, you're not going to get admission in the best of the college. Once so the norm is that the goal is to get you to the best college. Once you get into the best college, that's it, your life is set, because you're going to graduate and we're going to look for arranged marriage, your girl or boy or whatever, and your life is set. So the primary goal of all the parents, let me not say all the parents, majority of the parents, because that's what society taught them to do.
Right.
So
And you can't blame them for that, because that's how they were
no,
conditioned.
absolutely not, because that was the norm.
Right.
And however, there were some parents at that time who did not follow that norm. So from their perspective, it wasn't wrong to them, because they were doing the best that any parent could do that for the kid. So it's not that they were dictating. It's not that kids were revolting and no, I don't want that, and parents are saying no, you have to do that. Kids didn't know any better because they grew up listening to their parents, to their relatives, to their neighbors, that this is the path you have to take. This is the only way you're going to succeed. So we were not raised to learn, what do I want? So forget about the parents asking their 16-year-old, what do you want? Do you want science? Do you want commerce? Do you want humanities? That was not the question at that point. Kid even doesn't know. So it's not like dictatorship, because if you tell somebody, it sounds like, oh my God, parents were dictating and controlling their kids to choose their career. It wasn't the norm. It was just a normal discussion. Parents would sit on the table and they would put maybe 4 different paths, and they might ask you, which one would you like out of these 4?
Right.
So there was no scope of discussion of what actually you want. Kid doesn't know. Kid has been busy trying to pass millions of courses throughout their 16 years of journey. They don't know what they want. So that was the norm.
Right.
However, I don't know if by birth I was a little bit different from that path. And I wanted to do something different. And I couldn't do because I got kind of scared too, because the whole society said this is the best path for you, and I went through that
Right.
path.
You wanted to be in fashion.
I wanted to be a fashion designer, but that was not kind of accepted in the society where I was living through.
Right.
So that part of that creativity, that imagination that comes through all of my hobbies, because I am a creative person. I am very happy and content where I am right now, being a math educator. But at that point, I felt that I wasn't given the fair opportunity to figure out what I want to do with my life. And by nature, I'm not a controller at all, because I don't believe in controlling people and teaching them this is what is good and this is
Now, why not? That's my question, though, because that was in the 80s, the 70s, and a lot of people you've grown up with also developed into going through a path where their parents ultimately led them there because they didn't value allowing them to choose it themselves, not because it was bad, just because that was society. But those people are doing the same stuff to their kids that are complaining to me, that are my friends, that are like, yo, my parents make me go to finance and I don't want to do this. Mm-hmm. Why are you different from those people?
So the only thing, 2 things I can think about. I have been very courageous from the very beginning.
What does that mean? What do you mean by courageous? You were taking risks?
I am taking risk, and I am going to be the one who's going to stand in front of people, and I'm going to be able to say, this is what I want and this is what I want to do. However, choosing a major was huge. And I did, because my parents wanted me to go to a science. Science was supposed to be in the hierarchy, the higher level course. And that's where I discussed with my father and my mother that science is not something that I want to do. I have to be in commerce. So science and commerce were acceptable majors. So I was given the option. It's not that my parents forced me to be in science. So I went to commerce side and I did accounting major and all of that. Second part, I feel, and I look back and reflect on that, maybe that part of my creativity.
The part that was stifled.
Yes. I so wanted to be fashion designer. I so wanted to let my imagination go wild. Maybe that's why I felt that I'm not given a chance, because it was so strong in me that I was able to feel in every ounce of my, the vibe of my body that, no, this is what I want to do. I craved for it.
So why didn't you force your kids? Is the argument that your passion to be creative led, because you never wanted that to be restricted and you felt it be restricted for yourself, you couldn't imagine restricting it for someone else?
So that's one reason. But the second part of my personality, I am an educator. But I firmly believe in the power of social emotional learning in people. So you can have all the high degrees, you can have all the high grades. That just doesn't mean anything to me if you do not apply if you do not know how to think for the problems.
Right.
So there, as long as you're alive, you're going to have problems. So I can't teach you to solve number one problem or this problem or this problem. I believe in teaching you how to think and solve the problems, because as long as you're alive, you're going to. The only time you're not going to have problems when you die, right? When we die, that's
Right.
when problems end. So I believe in social emotional learning, and my efforts have been throughout the life. Let me give you options, or let me teach you how to choose, and let me teach you how to think. And when it came to the career, both of the reasons contributed to that. I wasn't able to do what I really wanted to do, and maybe my parents never knew how badly I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Right. And the second part, I never believed in controlling anybody.
Right.
I always believed in, walking on the spiritual growth, and I'm gonna be there to guide you. I'm gonna be there to teach you if
But
you need to
I don't
learn.
own you. I don't have access
But
to
I
you.
don't own you. It is your life. And as Khalil Gibran says, I always say that, not I always say, this is one of the hardest lessons that took me forever to learn, that I gave you birth, but you're not my property. You are an individual. So
Because it's so interesting because I mean, what you're saying with you're essentially describing a framework, a social emotional learning framework that involves critical thinking skills that allows me and my sister, right, to create a path for, like, the problem we encountered when we turned 20. She's 26, I'm 22. The problem we're still encountering is, what the hell do I want to do with my life? Right? Because if I'm going to be alive, I'm going to have problems. So I should suffer through the problems in a way that gives me some joy, even though it's going to be hard. But ultimately I need to suffer in some type of meaningful way. What you're describing is a framework that you've implemented through raising us that allowed us to encounter a problem and then realize that we have to ask ourselves questions to solve that problem. Right. Whereas other parents in particular, and this is not all parents obviously, but a lot of parents, they have over prioritized safety. They have over prioritized good, stable income. They've over prioritized getting a nice car. They've over prioritized the marriage, whatever they've over prioritized, and said, you don't need to think. We've done the thinking for you. Here's the solution. You execute the solution because, I think it goes to what you just said, you are, in a way, our property. And if you did not feel that someone was your property, if you did not feel that you had this complete ownership over them and they need to get a job at this corporation because it makes me look good, then you naturally give a vibe and a persona and an aura to them that gives them the ability to feel as if they can think for themselves, which to me, I mean, really, that's the number one gift you can give to someone. Yeah. The ability to allow them to do what they want to do and find purpose in that.
But it took me good 15 to 20 years to get to this point that I don't need to fulfill my unfulfilled dreams and desires through you.
Right.
And that's what I was doing. And
right.
That's what most of the parents do without knowing what they're doing it. And the biggest example that I always talk about, Shagun being in high school.
That's my sister.
And I wanted her to be valedictorian so bad that 9th and 10th grade and I had a few aha moments in the middle of the 10th grades when I realized that no, I need to step back. Yeah. This cannot be my dream.
And that's humbling. That's humbling. And it takes a lot of humility to do that.
I had to do a lot of unlearning. And the 10th grade it had to be 2009. That's where I attended a lot of meditation retreats. I did a lot of work on myself.
And that's the laziness that I think exists, not just for parents, but for all people who are not willing to do the intellectual labor it takes to develop themselves in a way that allows them to recognize these, like, objectively true things, which is like, it's not my dream, so why am I trying to live it through this other person?
Not necessarily laziness. Some people don't even know that they're wrong. Some people don't even know that there's another way to deal with the problem. They just keep living in that
And I mean, I think that's where videos like this hopefully maybe cause a breakthrough, right? There's just an unlimited amount of content out there. My point is, if you wanted to learn this stuff, it's available. Like the internet has given information to everything. So yes, it's not necessarily laziness, but it's being stuck in such old ways of thinking and not recognizing the harm that is doing to the other person, because maybe that person is not communicating well that it's harm. Maybe that person, you see them, they have $100,000 salary, they have a nice car, they have a nice family, but in the back of their head, they're like, I never wanted to be an engineer. Which is real. Like, this is real stuff that I have conversations with friends. Like, so because that communication is not strong, that person is not lazy, but they end up being stuck in their ways, and that means it's a dual-sided conversation.
And that begins with that fact that as long as parents keep thinking, hey, this is my child, and I'm gonna mold them to the way I want it. They have to be in a career the way I want it. Until that unlearning happens, they're not going to go search out, because they don't know they're wrong. They're thinking, well, I'm the parent, I'm the best well-wisher. Well, who else is going to guide my children? So they don't know there's a difference between guiding the children to let them follow their path, or guide them to, this is the only path.
Right. And I think that's a major distinction. Guiding versus giving them a path versus giving them the opportunity to find their own path.
And sometimes guiding is just listening to what they have to do. And parents love talking, and parents think that our job is to teach them. And what I am unlearning, the fact that it's not only teaching, sometimes all you have to listen to them and trust them.
Right.
And that was my... this is how I evolved, and my parenting evolved.
And this is very nuanced, right? Because your kid's not right about everything. There's things I wanted to do at 15, 16 that objectively it wasn't safe to do at the very least. And that's where you had to step in. That's where dad had to step in. But at some level, there has to be some allowance of freedom to be like, all right, I'm going to allow you to go to the movies and allow you to be with friends.
Yep.
All right, I'm going to allow you to go get dinner here and I'll come pick you up. All right, you guys, old friends are hanging out in a house, I'll allow you to go. And that may seem like, oh, every parent, like that's not, a lot of parents don't do that, especially immigrant parents. And I have a lot of friends who are immigrants. Their parents are very scared, at the very least, to just but allowing that bird to fly and just trusting that those experiences are going to be beneficial are important, because I also have friends who have not had those experiences, and you know some of these people that I'm talking about, and it's not even that they're lost in life. Everyone's lost in life. It's more so they're lame. Like, their personalities are boring. They haven't had conversations with people and experiences that have allowed them to intellectually develop.
But look at the point. You were in 6th grade when you went to watch a movie in Union Theater with your friends. So when I say I let you go, that doesn't mean, oh, go whatever, do whatever, go roam around at night. That's not the point.
Right.
I am dropping you, and I'm giving you the framework. This is where you're going to be. You're going to be in theater with your friends. You're going to come walk 2 blocks. You can have the ice cream because you're in 6th grade only. And it's 7 p.m. It's going to get a little bit darker. That's okay. So I am letting you go.
That's so important, man. But
I am there. It's not like you do whatever you need to do, and you come whenever.
And that would be irresponsible, right?
And that's where the guiding part comes.
And my whole point is that going to the movies at 6th grades, I think one of the reasons why I have some confidence in myself, some ability to communicate my thoughts and opinions, is because I had experiences like that, as small as they may be. Having the freedom to go to the movies in 6th grade, even with all the variables and restrictions in place to make sure it was a safe experience, it helped develop me. Yeah. And I think a lot of parents don't recognize the value in that.
Yeah.
Past 4 years I've been in college. I think I just submitted my last assignment, so as long as I passed, I'm officially graduated with a business degree from business school. I really haven't felt any pressure in the past 4 years to do anything that you've wanted me to do. Meaning, you have not said you have to go do this, do that, do that. Really, what you've done for college for me, from 18 to 22, is allow me to just think. And this is something I'm going to be talking about a lot more, something I'm a huge proponent of. It's just like thinking, because it takes a long time to think and come to a conclusion after you've thunk about stuff, and then figure out how do those thoughts materialize into some action that can be purposeful and lead you down a path in which you're going to fail, but still find some way to make sense of it.
But think about the main point. Because as a grown-up, I believe you, 15-year-old, 16-year-old, 20-year-old, You have the ability to think.
Right.
And that's where parents lose it, because
Right.
parents think they're the only ones who have the experience. You don't have experience of 50-year-old, but you do have experience of 22-year-old.
Right.
So I'm letting you think on your level. You can think. That's why I'm letting you think. And that's the point where parents lose it. That what does kid know?
Right.
They don't
What
have
does the kid know?
experience. You know.
Right. And you know, the name of this podcast is Motivated by Mortality, right? So, you know, imagine me, an Indian kid from parents who are immigrants, who's trying to communicate his thoughts to the world about the nature of death and existential philosophy and how that influences why we have to find purpose and meaning in life. Oh, like, my whole point is the fact that we're even doing this, the fact that I have the confidence to do this, the fact that I have the confidence to put this out there, the fact that I care so much about having a conversation with my mom on Mother's Day, because I know this conversation will be meaningful and important, and it will create a memory that is beyond, you know, my wildest imaginations, beyond the sensation of getting a job. Like, the fact that I have the ability to do that, to me, showcases that there was something good you did while raising me in terms of letting me think on my own. And
Well, thank you. I think I take it as a compliment.
that's
Thank
a compliment. It's not. Let's not say your cooking is good, because we ain't go that far. But let's just go with that. No, her cooking is good. But like, my whole point is, like, these are abstract concepts. Being able to talk about death and philosophy and bring them down to a material level and then put it out there into the world. And I just feel grateful that I have the freedom to do it, because I've never felt scared of you or dad or anyone for judging me for do this. Am I scared of the rest of the world seeing this? Yeah, but that's everybody, right? You put it out there and you'll see what happens. But I've never felt like this sense of, like, if I do this, my parents are going to say that. And I think that's I think that's part of the reason why I think I'm going to win in life, because a lot of people don't grow up with that sense of compassion for what they're trying to do. Ultimately, so I think that's a really, really important thing. And I think that parents who are watching this and kids who are watching this, I mean, the best thing you can do is have a conversation. Right? Like, really, the best thing you do to have this conversation. I remember when I wanted a phone in 5th grade, I made an entire PowerPoint presentation to convince you why I should get a phone, a little small flip phone. And besides even going into the whole story, the reason I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, you got me the phone was not because the reasons I had for getting a phone were so amazing, because no 5th graders is going to create some amazing reason for why they need a phone, when in reality, they really don't. It was that I put the time and effort into constructing a narrative, constructing a message that I could then sell to you and dad in a way that was persuasive and convincing enough for you to feel, wow, he actually really cares about this. If we get him a phone, he's not just going to throw it away or make junk of it. If we get him a phone, he's actually going to be grateful that his efforts in trying to create a message and then effectively and efficiently communicate that message to the gatekeepers of the phone, because I didn't have any money, you guys had the money, should be rewarded. Can you talk about, like, rewarding the little things your kids do and showing how that allows them to better develop their personality?
I, never believed in rewarding kids for doing what they're supposed to be doing at home. For all the chores at home, for anything, there was never, like other parents, they were giving cash value to the kids. If they do the garbage, if they do the room cleaning, if they do their laundry, there were always, I hear the stories of, there were always rewards attached to that. I personally don't believe in that. Like your report card, our students and so many other kids, you would tell me that, oh, I get $50 per A that I received. I just never believed in that, because you were getting grades for yourself, not for me. That was the fundamental fact of, growing up. And every time when you brought a report card, we just took both of you to a restaurant and fine dining, and that was our way of appreciating you, that we are so proud of you, of all the accomplishments.
Right, but I was
never gift attached
right.
to the grades.
I was never motivated by, oh, we're gonna get a nice dinner if I get good grades.
Yeah.
Like, first of all, that's not a big enough motivation to get nice grades.
Yeah, so that I just don't believe in, can you do this and I'll pay you that. That was never the norm at Kukreja's residence over here.
Yeah, and I think that made sense. I think not attaching rewards to good behavior at such an extreme level is what allowed you to realize there's an expectation, but that expectation is not get a A for me. Get an A because you'll feel good because you
and,
worked
and
hard
to
to get an
create a family, once you asked, I think you were in first grade, that okay, if you want me to do these chores, can you pay me allowance? So we were living in Milburn apartments, and I said sure. And you were so happy that okay, I'm gonna get $10, $15, whatever mom says. So I created a list of all the chores that need to be done in the family to run a family. And we sat on a table, we all four of us, and I said, okay, so I'm asking you these chores. This much money could be paid, and these are. So everybody looked at everybody's chores, and my chores was like, oh, the whole page of all the jobs, and that's when you realize you do that many chores, which you didn't realize it before.
Yeah.
So that was my way of showing you, if I'm not getting paid for these chores, because this is a family and we have to work together
Right.
to run a family. And that's when you understood that no, you can't ask for allowance to do the garbage or to do the laundry, because we all four have to work together to run this family.
Right.
So I think that helped a lot. In
establishing a
in,
way
in
of
understanding that
Yeah.
also. And second thing that I remember, and I've told a lot of parents about this, every time I went on an professional official trip, or I went to Seattle, I went to Atlanta for a math conference. You were in first or second grade or third grade. You would always ask me, can you buy me gift from when you come back? Can you buy me t-shirts? And those t-shirts are with $30, $35.
Yeah.
So once or twice I did bring it. But then I said, okay, these kids are not understanding that these are so expensive t-shirts and we don't need to be spending money all the time. So when I took you to Disney World, I think the best decision I made, what I said to both of you, and I say, I'm going to give you $40 every single day for 5 days.
Yep.
You're going to have $200. So every day, in the morning, I'm going to give you $40. Lunch is
That
on
40
you.
felt like a million. I'm not gonna lie.
Yes.
Like when
And I said, the lunch is on you. And
the lunch is literally like $35. So you start to realize real quick this million is not worth
and
it.
I said, you could do whatever you want to do with $40. Dinner is on me. And if you save, I'm not going to take it back. So if you save, that's your money. And your first day was, oh, no, I don't want to carry water. Oh, no, I don't want to carry the fruit. We'll buy it over there. And once you realize how expensive it was, next day you started planning with your sisters that, okay, you buy ice cream and I'll share with you. I'll buy fries and I'll share with you. And when I took you to the souvenir shop and I say, go ahead, buy a t-shirt. And you said, my God, these are so expensive.
Yeah.
And I did spend $400, but taught you guys such an important lesson that after that, you never asked me, let's go to now. The situation is flipped. Now I want to go to souvenir shop and you tell me, Mom, this is so expensive. Why are you buying it? No, but I want to have some souvenir where I'm going from.
Yeah.
So, the money was handled very differently in Kukreja residence.
Right. And I think that was just a good lesson in terms of what it takes to run a family. You don't and that's different than a lot of other parents that would just either yell at their kids or just smack their kids and be like, what do you mean you don't deserve money? How could you even ask that? I mean, there was a level of like, you gave me the respect to let me have a voice to even ask, am I allowed to make money? And then you logically showed me why that makes no sense versus shutting it down immediately.
Yeah.
And I think that's
what it takes.
that's strong parenting. Yeah.
Yep.
Did a decent job. Job.
Thank you.
All right, motivated by mortality. So this podcast is about finding meaning through life, finding the meaning of life through an understanding of death. Obviously, there's a lot of factors to that, but that's the overarching thesis. I have been someone who's been motivated by the fact that I'm going to die. I've been very vocal about that to you, vocal about that to my friends. All of my friends, they constantly bring it up. I can't stop thinking about it. So it made the most sense to make a podcast about it and have conversations and see if they resonate with other people. You got very close to your mortality a month ago because you had coronavirus. I had coronavirus. My sister had it. My dad had it. Me, my sister, my dad didn't have it to the extent that my mom had it. You ended up going to the hospital. We're on oxygen for 5 days. It was a rough experience. What was your confrontation with mortality in that circumstance like?
Well, I'm feeling much better now. I was in hospital for 6 days. I got sick on April 2nd. And April 9th, for 7 days, I had high fever at home. April 9th was the day in the midnight when I started feeling shortness of breath. and I was in hospital for 6 days. I came back on April 15th. So from that day, I remember on April 16th, I had 700 steps in my house. I was barely able to get up and move. I am feeling much better physically because day before yesterday, I had almost 8,000 steps and I was able to walk for a mile out on my street. So yeah, physically, I'm doing much better. However, psychologically, it has taken a heavy toll on my mind, and I still sometimes in the middle of the night I get nightmares of what I went through in the hospital, and I get up and I start checking my breath and I'm able to breathe or not. I still do that, so it's gonna take some time to get through that.
So that was rough. You made it through. I think at the end of the day, all we can do is be grateful because there's a lot of people, unfortunately, that did not make it through, and it's just it happens, and there's nothing more you can say about it. But you did make it through, and I guess the worst part you mentioned to us is we weren't allowed in the hospital, so we couldn't see you. So how was that feeling of like, if I am gonna die, which you did feel like you were close to it, and not being able to say bye, right, to some people? What was that feeling like?
So, how did I feel at hospital? Let me first explain physically. So I don't think I was in pain. I was not in pain. I had high fever. I felt shortness of breath. I couldn't breathe. I was on oxygen. I had serious cough. I was coughing so bad, and so I couldn't sleep at nights. And sleeping is the most important part of us gaining the strength. Because I wasn't able to sleep, the maximum was, I think, one night for 2 hours, but my average was an hour and a half that I was sleeping. So because I couldn't sleep and I kept coughing, my energy level was really weak. I was on IV, and I was on oxygen, and I had heart monitor attached to me. So physically, it was very hard for me to move. Well, forget about moving. Just getting off the bed was a task. Like getting off the bed that, okay, I'm coughing, I have to go to bathroom, I need to get up. I had to plan for, okay, from my left hand, I'm going to hold the railing of my bed because I can't move, my legs can't move, but I have to have that remote where if something happens, I can call the nurse also at the same time if I fall or something. So just getting off the bed sometimes took me 15 minutes of planning to get up.
Yeah.
So meals were good. They were delivered on time. However, there was no appetite. So I couldn't, barely ate half of the meals over there. So I wasn't in pain. But what you see in the media that doctors and nurses were so busy, it's actually real. So every patient had an iPad. Like they were barely coming to room. They were FaceTiming me through iPad.
Yeah.
And the only people who entered was 3 to 4 hours if they had to take my blood pressure, they have to take my blood, or people would come to take the trash can, but they're just taking the trash can. You can't ask them to remind someone to do what. If the nurse is coming to take your blood pressure, they're just taking the blood pressure. They don't have time to hear anything. So even if you say, can I have another warm blanket? Okay, I'll do that. And then it could take 2 hours for you to get the blanket.
Right.
So just the level of the way I was uncomfortable physically to move around and to eat and to walk, psychologically, the only best way to explain my situation was you're lonely.
Yeah.
You are, and I'm one of those people who never felt loneliness because I am in love with my own company. So I have never been bored or I have never been lonely, but these 6 days have taught me how lonely someone can feel because your family can't come, your friends can't come, you're barely able to talk on phone.
Right.
So maybe 5 minute, 4 minute, the conversation I had with anyone, nurses don't have time. There's nobody in the room. So all the work that I have done on spiritual level, I had to use every ounce of energy. It was all mental work. Like physically, yes, they were giving me pneumonia medicine and malaria medicine. I know those medicines were needed to get me physically recovered, but it was way more than that.
Right.
You know,
I think it always is.
It's
It always is.
it's the and I've always believed that there's a power in your thought process. And some of my friends were really good, stayed with me throughout. I got an email from one of the friend from who was registered nurse who explained to me exactly what I needed to do. So it was a lot of logical conversation with myself because I wasn't able to sleep. So I'm sitting on my chair. So I am having a conversation with me or God, because all I'm saying, people are dying left to right. And I could be the one whose time is up. And that produced a lot of fear in me. That produced a lot of stress in me. And I'm not used to of being scared. So that feeling was not very normal to me. And all I kept thinking, if something happens to me right now, if I'm walking around and oxygen comes out and I faint and nobody's able to get to me in 2 to 3 hours, and if I die, how about my family? They won't be able to say goodbye to me, and the kids are not ready. Nobody's ready. They just dropped me to hospital because I was just having a problem with oxygen. But this is real. So that produced so much fear in me, and I found myself just sitting and crying like a baby, and just talking to God, that begging that it's okay if it's my time to go. That's okay. Just if I've done anything good in life, just let me go home first. Let me talk to the kids. Let me talk to Rakesh. Let me get them ready. And then you can take me. So those were the conversations I was having with God.
You were bargaining.
And bargaining. And then the meals would come, and I'm looking at the meal. I don't want to eat meal. But then I'm having a conversation with myself. Okay, I'm asking God, let me go home. The only way I'm going to go home if I eat. Because if I don't eat, I'm not going to have energy to get up.
Yeah.
So eat, Babita. Eat half of that. So I'm eating. Sometimes I was literally crying for an hour. I'm taking one bite at a time because I'm telling myself, Babita, you got to eat. Now I'm eating. Okay, I ate half of that. Now I have to get up and walk because my brain is telling me if you don't walk, you're not going to be able to digest the food. And I know the whole circle. You got to be able to digest the food to get the energy, right? So how do I walk? I have millions of wires attached to me. In order for me to walk, I have to carry my heart monitor. I'm carrying my oxygen. I'm carrying everything. So there was a board in front of my bed where, nurses would come and they would write all the details. I got up, took the marker, and I put some positive affirmations there. I will eat half of the meal every single time. I will get up and I would walk. I would sleep on the left or right side because I was told that you have to sleep on belly. With all these wires, I couldn't sleep on my belly.
Right.
So it was, I was dealing with so many different levels on physical and psychological level that you guys were scared at home. So I wasn't telling you what I was going through. And I just spent half of my time in crying in tears. And I had iPad, so I was watching Gautam Buddha's, although I watched it like 3 years ago. So I watched like last 25 episodes there, and every time I would see Buddha giving up water, or next time giving up fruits, or now giving up this, and I'm relating to myself, hold on. So he's meditating and he has given up this. So I would try to inspire myself that get up, Babita, eat and walk. Because until you do that,
and that mindset was necessary. Right.
Without that, there's no way I would have survived because there's nobody sitting in front of you putting the bite in your mouth.
Right.
There's nobody helping you. And then after 3 days, when they got my result positive, they put me in doubles, and where 2 patients had positive because they needed some more beds. And at that time, I had only 5 feet of space. So if I had to go to bathroom, extension of my oxygen didn't work. So I had to almost run. Like I'm saying figuratively run, I was barely able to walk. go to bathroom and come back because I would take my oxygen out of me, and I would be scared if I faint. Nurses are not coming within the next 2-3 hours. I might be fainted and nobody would know.
Yeah.
You know. So I lived with that fear every single moment there. What if I'm not able to go home? So lonely.
Well,
That's all
I'm happy you're alive. Pretty.
I am beyond grateful that
Pretty
I'm
happy.
able to
I'm
have-
pretty happy you. I'm happy you had the mindset that it took, the intensity it took to get out of that situation. Because, what we talked about for the past hour is you allowed me to be me. You allowed me to find my own inner voice. You allowed me the freedom to become who I want, to fail, to dare to dream. And I'm happy you're here because I love you, but it would have also sucked for me to chase this wild dream that I'm trying to chase, and for you to not be here and witness what you gave me the opportunity and freedom to actually be able to build. So I'm happy you're alive.
I thought about that million times in those 6 days. Because I kept saying, and the main point is, I wasn't scared of myself dying. Not that anybody could be scared when they feel that they might die at this moment. I don't think I had even time to think about myself at that time. All I kept thinking about you guys, and exactly what you said, that oh my God, no, I want to see you growing up. I want to see you doing all the crazy things that you say, and that I believe that you're able to do it. And then I'm saying, my God, I don't want to die at this moment. So it was just,
that would suck.
It would just, yeah. So I am absolutely beyond grateful, and with the support system, the way our support system was, I am absolutely overwhelmed and amazed by the people, the way they fed us, the way they bought the groceries for us. There were people who I've never met them, and they were calling me, messaging me. You don't need to know me. Just
So
tell me.
I actually want to talk about that a little bit further. So you were getting hundreds and hundreds of messages of people who were wishing you well and giving you a lot of messages. And today, while we were having Mother's Day lunch, you mentioned that some random people who keep up with your Facebook posts are messaging you and telling you that you're an inspiration, that there's something around your personality, something around how you speak, how you communicate, that's inspiring them and giving them some hope. Transitioning that in conjunction with the fact that you're 50 and you're entering the next chapter of your life, what is it about you that you think gives people, and there's proof because you had a lot of messages, that gives people this feeling that they have to show you gratitude because of how you help them, how you inspire them, how you allow them to think in a different way? You have this WhatsApp group called Life is Awareness, where a lot of the things you post to a lot of the women in that group is, because you're a little bit older than those women, is the experiences you've had and how you've been able to use those experiences to become more aware. And they're really grateful for you to that. Now, as you're turning 50, how are you thinking of using that awareness in a way when you're entering the next part of your life?
So, when you talk about being an inspiration, I am, as I said, I'm overwhelmed by the messages that people have written to me and inspired me, even in the hospital, or I posted my story on the Facebook on Tuesday, a day before I was released from the hospital. So one thing I say, it really matters how you tell your story, whether you tell on social media or you tell someone verbally. When you tell your story in the beginning of a crisis and ask for help publicly, and your language shows that, oh my God, I am in the middle of the crisis and what do I do? Then it looks like you're trying to gain sympathy, you're weak, you show, because when you're in the crisis, you don't, that's not the time to use the social media to post all of us. When you're in crisis, it's okay to get help, but you reach out to some people who are close to you, right?
Yeah.
When I posted, the worst was over. The doctor had already told me at that time that we're releasing you tomorrow. So when you tell a story in a way that you start from being authentic what happened, how it happened, how you got over it, the struggle. It's okay to say that I was weak and I was scared, but this is how you handled it. And then you show your gratitude to the people who have supported you throughout that journey. And then you say, I'm still learning and unlearning, and you are grateful. Then that story becomes a part of inspiration, because now people are not now, and the ocean of collective force of prayers that came from different continents. My God, like, my friend is telling me from India that she posted in her WhatsApp group, and all of her friends who have no clue who I am, and they are in the collective energy of prayers. Over here in the groups, my friends are organizing Zoom meetings for praying for me and my family. Forget about delivering the food. Like, I came back on April 15th, and till April 26th, we had someone delivering us food every single day.
Even our neighbor.
Someone from Albany cooking the fresh food and sending it through FedEx to New Jersey. My neighbor buying the groceries for us. Like, it is unbelievable, overwhelming for us that humanity, looking at the magnitude of humanity that still exists, that people do want to do good. Like, I do believe in goodness of people. Yeah, in the middle you find out some people also who you thought would be helping you, but did, and that's okay, because I got so much other goodness, got to see goodness in other people who I didn't even know who those people were, So moving forward, as I said, that I've been walking on spiritual path for a very, very long time. I have never really cared about what people think about me. That's something.
How do you do that? Because I think people, especially my age, are very concerned, including myself, about how other people perceive me. What thought process do you use to get people's thoughts away from you?
I think I have memories from my high school also. I have always been vocal about how I feel about certain things. And I have tried to live my life with open heart, in an authentic way. So just a little example, when we're studying in the high school and I was really good at making notes, I was never shy in sharing my notes with anybody. So I was always about sharing stuff with everybody, that if I'm doing it, go ahead, you do that too. When you do everything with open heart, you accept the people for who they are. I just didn't care what people are thinking about me, because it just builds so much confidence in me that this is who I am. And I kept telling myself that I am a kind person. If you need help, I am going to help you. I am a smart person. I have a common sense. I am really good in education. At every step, I kept reflecting, learning and growing, because learning and growing has been my motto from the middle school, elementary school that I can think about all the time at every phase. Being 50 and going through this whole crisis, that part did not die in me. I'm still all about learning and growing. And because whatever I'm learning, I'm sharing with everybody. I don't know. I can't pinpoint.
You can't find a reason. Like, because you're so focused on learning and growing, you're not focused on what other people have to say about you.
Absolutely. When you keep everything to yourself, and you keep telling yourself, why do I need to share? Why do I need to do? Why I don't know what other people are going to think of me. So when you keep saying that, when you have that perspective, you are not living with open mind.
Right.
Because I have shared, I keep learning and I fail. So when I fail, I have no problem in sharing with people. Oh my God, I started something and I failed.
Right.
I failed and I realized, okay, nothing happened. I failed. People know I failed.
That's where most people can't handle it, right? Including myself, right? Like, because when you fail and it's public, now you're so obsessed with how the entire world has perceived your failure, when in reality they didn't even have the courage to try most of the time.
So people got to see on different phases of my life that, oh, she's human. Oh, that's how it happens with us too. Like even with the virus, there were a lot of people who did not say publicly that they had the virus, and me putting my story on Facebook in a way, yes, we had that problem and we faced it. We were very weak. For a good 17 days, we all were sick.
Right.
It was very hard when we all had fever. So because I've always been vocal about my failures to the world, when I say world, meaning whoever is close to me, and I realized just because I shared, they're still there. I didn't die. I didn't die out of shame. So being vulnerable to my problems, to my failure,
Right.
I think has helped me build that confidence that, you know what, I really don't care. If I shared my story and 10 people loved it and one person hates it, that's not my problem.
Yeah, that's a big thing. That's what you just said has really given me the confidence to share my story and put stuff out there. Even putting this conversation out there, like that's scary because people see it, and then you're thinking of how people think about what you're saying. I think the biggest thing for me is everyone has an opinion. At the end of the day, like the beauty of being alive is that you have the ability to think about something, and that may be different from someone else. If that is the case, yes, you should care about how people think, but that and take into consideration and be empathetic. But if you're living your life, if you're just trying to share your story, if you're just trying to find a place where you can maximize the potential for your success and just get things out there and ultimately share a perspective with the world and then react to what they think about that perspective, if you're unwilling to do that because you're so clouded by what people think about your story, then you don't even have a story.
Yep.
I mean, you have a story to yourself.
You're
but
just not living authentically.
it's the greatest book that was read by one person.
Mm-hmm.
And books are meant to be read by more people, in my opinion.
Yep.
It's more fun when books are read by more people because then they can react to it, whether it's a heart on Facebook or whether it's a email saying you really helped me with your story. And that sense of connection and sharing with each other, I think that's the power of social media, but that's really the power, that's just the beauty of being alive. That I went through a really hard time, I shared it, and now I'm able to connect based upon that experience. Otherwise, we're just going through experiences, and if we're not talking about them, it's like, what's the point of even going through them at that point?
And there are many people that I know that they feel, I learned it, I'm gonna fix my life, I'm gonna improve in my life, I reflect, but I don't need to share. And I know many of the people who are not comfortable in sharing their stories with
Right. And not everyone needs to, right?
And
not
that's
everyone
okay.
needs to.
And that's what when I was watching Gautam Buddha, he was saying exactly the same thing, that he said our job is all about learning, suffering and learning and reflecting.
Yeah.
Once you learn something, your moral, social, ethical responsibility is to share that learning with others. So now
Right.
you're sharing it not with the expectation that you must learn.
Or monetizing it or getting some value for it.
Yes, nothing.
Then it's faulty sharing at
Right.
that point, right?
So when you're sharing it, out of 10 people, the only people who are going to learn who are ready.
Right.
And having them ready is not your responsibility. That's their journey that they have to pass through.
Right.
So I believe my motto always has been learn and grow, learn and grow, learn and grow. Whether it was my teenage, elementary school, coming in 30s, coming in 40s, coming in 50s, my professional life, personal life, it's always, even when I do my PLC's meetings, the motto at the bottom is always learning and growing together.
Right.
So when you're learning, you're reflecting, that's the only way you could grow.
And the problem with getting older with 60s, 70s, 80s is like at one point you realize the end is near, and if you realize you haven't shared your story, like that's a very deep sort of like problem to me. Like that really motivates me when it comes to if I'm at the end and I know I haven't said anything or communicated anything in whatever medium of communication that may be to the world. For me, that is a deeply disturbing thought, because then for me it's like, well, it's the end and I guess I just lived it, and I did not even give myself the opportunity to have an impact on other people, which I know my story would have had, not because I wanted to, just because naturally that's what it does. And the fulfillment I would have got out of that would have never been, it would have been left on the table because I was too afraid of what someone in college thought of me posting something.
Right.
Which to me at 80, it's not a good way to end it all. You know, it's Mother's Day. I think this discussion is really important. This conversation is important. We can look back on it later. As I mentioned that you like to take photos, you also like to hang up a lot of motivational quotes around the house, right? I made a joke about this in the speech that I gave at your birthday party, but like those motivational quotes, to me, I really love them because they highlight the optimism that you have about the world. Something I saw in the room the other day was, life's not about waiting for the storm to pass, life's about learning how to dance in the rain. One, I love the linguistic dynamic between how a quote operates and what you feel at the end, but I also just love the fact that it's there and it's something that I can walk into a room and actually see. How do you, to end it off, stay optimistic, and how do you continue to want to learn and grow and develop, even though you know you're getting older and things are changing and life is moving on?
So, because I have always believed in learning and growing, and this is something my entire life. I have had so many hobbies, and this is the only way I have learned to distract myself. When I'm learning a new skill, when I am creating my jewelry for hours, I'm going to forget all about what's happening. So when people talk about stress or depression, or I don't know what it is, because I've always been able to focus on what I'm learning. I was actually recently, I was reading an article. I think it talked about University College of London, where researchers were, it was saying that you can actually, boredom can actually cause death. And
Damn.
the researchers were saying that they have done a research on 7,500. I'm trying to recollect my memory. They did a research on 7,500 people for about 20 years, and they found out people who felt boredom early on in their stage were twice as likely to the heart attack. And
Interesting.
I literally believe in that.
Yeah, me too.
That when people are bored, they don't have anything to look for, they don't have any purpose, they don't have hobbies. The money and the house, not enough. You have to have a purpose to keep moving.
And that, just to, before you continue, that is my whole thesis at 22. I really think I've grappled with the fact that you get a nice job, you get the house, you get the car. There's going to be a feeling of emptiness that I know is going to be there, that is only fulfilled through the excitement of waking up in the morning and starting something new, which I've felt many times in my life, because I've had decent experiences where I've started a journey, and the process of being on that journey was the happiness of before getting to the destination, right? Like,
Right.
enjoy the process before you get to the end. So it doesn't make sense to wake up every morning and not feel that sense of purpose, or at least not even try to create a sense of purpose so that you don't get bored and die early.
And because I am, such a believer of creating that growth mindset, I didn't even know all about that stuff till I read all about Carol Dweck at my work. But I didn't realize that I always had a growth mindset where my failures did not become a problem for me. And I see a lot of people having such a fixed mindset that if they try something and they fail, they're not going to try over and over again. And I'm one of those people who, I'm gonna try a new skill and I fail, and I'm vocal about it, so I don't care what people talk about me, and I'm gonna try and try and try, and I'm gonna get to that part. I won't rest till I get to that part. So in that process, and an example, I wanted to learn how to attach 3 monitors to my computer, and it took me so long to go through the YouTube videos and learning. So in that journey, in that process of learning one little project, none of the other things would bother me. So I'm able to distract myself from all other problems. When the coronavirus was going on, I wasn't watching that news. I was able to distract myself by learning, doing different things. I'm learning on Zoom. I'm training myself on all these video conferences platform. So when people are watching the news and getting scared and spreading the panic, I am busy in learning different things. And
Right.
it does so much to your, new learning experiences does so much to your brain also.
It just gives you confidence. Like I have a problem, I can spend 3 hours, I can figure it out, and trying to solve that problem, like even setting up these microphones, trying to solve that problem is rewarding.
So this is a part of meditation. What is meditation? This is meditation. When you focus on one thing, you're watching your thoughts. You're not having 100 million thoughts. So when you're learning something, you are actually thinking about only that part. That is a meditation, and it helps brain to connect the neurons also, that replaces the neurons that have been, worn off. So just learning new things, accepting the failure, accepting and to get to that point, and it helps release that chemical dopamine also. That is the main factor of happiness. I just feel happy when I'm able to do something that I wasn't able to accomplish at the first step.
Right.
So,
and I think that's the difference between people who kind of take the path that everyone gives to them and just does what everyone else does, versus some of the people who, like, they differentiate themselves in a way because they want a different challenge, not just connecting microphones, but an existential challenge, a challenge that questions what their purpose will be.
Yep.
And if you already have that planned out, there's nothing wrong with getting a job and having it. But like for some people, it's like, and this is me right now, I'm longing for a problem that is so hard to solve that it takes an intense amount of creativity, analytical thinking, business skills, just like hustle, like whatever it takes to solve that problem, because I know it will take a very long time. And it'll not be as rewarding in the short term of getting some job and immediately getting a paycheck, but the process of finally solving that problem, being on that mountaintop, I think it's going to be way more rewarding, especially if the dream is big enough and it's something you're kind of good at and it's something you really feel is gonna influence and impact other people. Then it gives me a reason to wake up in the morning, and right now I need a reason to wake up in the morning.
And when I have these productive conversations with you and Shagun, and when I watch you being able to think on such a level where I normally don't see youngsters thinking on that, it helps me, it helps us, me and your dad, to smoothen that process. And I feel like, okay, if I were to die tomorrow, they are on their own. I'm able to get them ready to the point that, if I die, they are able to move on with their life. And that's
Right.
very important to me, because the last thing I want that, oh, mom died, now kids are stuck and they're not, I die on Christmas and you're never going to celebrate Christmas, or I die on Diwali, you're never going to celebrate Diwali. That's the last thing I want. I want you to think me in a way that, what would my mom want me to do right now? Smile or cry? And I want you guys to remember me in that sense, and that watching you to be able to think like that and talk like that, I feel that you're going to be on your own. You're going to be good. So that gives me, helps me smoothen that anxiety that all the parents have, that what if I die and what's going to happen with my kids? You guys are going to be good. You guys are going to be okay.
I'm going to be all right. Gonna figure it out.
That was good.
And we're gonna figure it out because you gave us the freedom to think that it's okay to figure it out on your own.
Yeah.
So.
It's okay to fail. It's okay to get up. It's okay to say, I failed 50 million times, but I'm going to figure it out. And having that spiritual power, having that courage.
Really, what is it? It's spiritual power. Whether or not you believe in spirituality or not, even I'm not the biggest fan of spirituality, but like it is something metaphysical. It is something beyond your physical capacity, something that's in your consciousness to get you to that next level of like, what do I need to do to figure this out?
Yep.
That's a level of thinking I think very few people get to.
That's the ultimate goal of true, authentic, conscious parenting, to get the children to that level.
Right.
And then parents could, sit back and relax, and we're just enjoying the ride now.
All right. I think that's a good way to end it off. All right. Thank you.
This was a beautiful gift of Mother's Day.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. I think you dropped a lot of knowledge that a lot of people can benefit from in terms of just conscious parenting. And it was a good memory to hold on to, because I know we're going to watch this in 10 years and it's going to be a fun thing to watch in 10 years. So, All right. Thank you. Thank you for being on the podcast. Your food is still horrible, but thank you for being on the podcast. I'm kidding. She cooks really well. All right. Bye-bye.